You are going blind. What are you going to do? You will never be able to see anymore. You won't be able to see the mountains, the flowers, nothing. What could you do? And because you can't see, you step on many animals. What's going to happen to you? Think about the amount of bad merits you accumulate. It means we may even go to the four great house. So today, we're going to continue the story of Venerable Chakkhupala. So before Chakkhupala became Chakkhupala, his name was Mahapala. He was the oldest among his family. He had another brother called Chulapala. And after his parents had passed away, he took responsibility of his family. He looked after his brother to the best he possibly could. He loved his brother. But then he listened to the Dharma, to the Buddha's preachings, and understood living in lay life is now useless. What is there to be gained? Where is my finish line? And so on and so forth. And he decided to ordain. But before that, he had to get permission. He went to his brother and requested for his permission. And Chulapala reluctantly gave it. And so Mahapala went and ordained. And after asking his teacher what he should do, he decided to practice his path. After having learnt the Dharma, after having listened to the Dharma, after having understood, comprehended the Dharma, he decided he wanted to contemplate on this. He decided he wanted to contemplate on this, and therefore he went into a rural area. And he took some of his students as well. So a large group of them decided to go to this rural area. And soon the rain retreat approached, and the Buddha had prescribed that all his monks should reside in a monastery or somewhere for 3 months without going out, even for alms. And so the people in the town decided to request for the Venerable Pala and the other monks to reside. And so they did. And as you remember, the Venerable Pala had a small disease, small bacteria had gone into his eyes, and he was going blind, and he was given medicine, but he didn't apply the medicine properly because he rather sacrificed his eyes than stop going on his path. And even when the doctor had told him, please, Venerable Pala, put this medicine properly and your eyes will become better and then you can practice the path. But the Venerable Pala knew he was on the brim. He was on the brink of attaining what he wanted. He was so close. He couldn't delay it another day or two. He must do it now. And decided to apply the medicine, but not lean his back against anything, not to lie down. He had a determination that strong. He had a determination that strong. He was not going to, no matter who said so. Even if the world was to collapse, he would not lean his back against anything. He had made a resolve, and he was going to keep to that resolve no matter what. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is what someone with self-discipline and self-motivation have. When they make a resolve, nothing, no power can change his or her mind. So anyway, his eyesight became weaker and weaker and weaker. But in the middle of the night, the Venerable Pala was contemplating and contemplating and contemplating. His tears were falling from his eyes, but he didn't care. Soon, in the pitch black sky, the colors that he used to see started to disappear. Everything became black and white, and soon, even the white started to disappear. Eventually, he only saw was black. The Venerable Pala had lost his eyesight, not to see a single color again, but to his fortune, the moment he became blind, he had also completed his goal. He became an arhat the moment he became blind. Therefore, he was not suffering. He was not suffering because of his eyesight, because he had completed his goal. He had found his finish line. He stopped at nothing until that happened. By the end of the rain retreat, all of his fellow monks came up and you could imagine had seen this Venerable Pala practice his path with tears falling out of his eyes. You can imagine just by seeing the Venerable Pala meditate. Because he isn't young. He isn't in his youth. He's very old. But seeing him meditate empowered others to meditate as well. Empowered the other monks to meditate, to practice their path. And so when Mahapala became an Arhat, he stood up and using his hands, he guided himself outside. He could look up, but he won't see the moon, the full moon. If you look down, he couldn't see the ground. He couldn't see the lush green grass. He couldn't see anything. But that didn't matter to him. He had no expectation. He had no dreams and hopes about his eyesight. And now because he's an Arhat, he is no longer suffering. So after the rain retreat, his fellow monks would come up to him and say, Venerable Sir, let's all go round for alms. It's the end of our rain retreat. But the Venerable Pala said, I'm sorry, but I can't go. Why? Why can't you go? You see, my fellow monks, I am blind. I can't walk. I can't do any of that. Now, having heard this, they were surprised. You are blind? You practiced your path until you went blind. And so they decided, out of compassion, they would bring him alms. And so they went out for alms and brought him alms every single day. You see, the Venerable Pala was famous among not just monks, but also famous among the people. People loved to hear his sermons. They loved to listen to him, his advice, because they followed it to the dot, to the letter. But when, after the rain retreat, when the Venerable Pala didn't go around going for alms, they were curious. They were asking why. And when he didn't preach anymore, they were again curious. They started asking why. You see, the Venerable Pala was loved by his monks, by the people, by everyone, because he was a kind and gentle person. He never tried to hurt anyone's feelings. All he did was help others. He would give great advice to each and every one of them. He would give not just the great, but the right advice as well. He will help the people when they need it. And so they were grateful. And so when the town members looked for the Venerable Pala, they understood. The other monks told them that he was now blind. Now these town members, they decided they want to help the Venerable Pala as well. And so they made his life as easy as possible. Because don't forget, he was an Arhat as well. Think about the amount of merits they can accumulate. All of that. After that, Venerable Pala would preach. And sooner or later, all the monks who went with him, who went into seclusion with him, all became Arhats as well. And so they decided, after they've all completed their hopes, their dreams have all been fulfilled. They all wanted to become Arhats, and they all did. They decided, let's go back to the monastery. Let's go back and see the Buddha. And so they all got ready and they asked Venerable Pala, let's all go back to the monastery. But Mahapala refused. I'm sorry, but I can't go. I'm too weak. I am old, I'm frail, so I cannot go. And I'm blind as well. You have to guide me all the way. I will only slow you down. The journey there may take a couple of days, but with me, it may take even a couple of weeks. You all go. I'll stay. But please, when you go back into town, my younger brother is still alive. Please go to him and tell him that I'm blind. I've become blind. And he will definitely send someone to take care of me. Hearing this, all the monks had decided to leave. The people were very sad that the Venerable Mahapala couldn't go anywhere. And just like the monks said, they went back to the town. But before these monks could go to Chulapala went to these monks and asked, Venerable Sir, where is my brother? I can't see him in the crowd. I can't see him in this group. Where's my brother? I can't see him in this group. The monks answered, Chulapala, your brother is blind. He was unable to make it here. He is still residing in the seclusion in that rural town. He asked you to send someone for him. The moment Chulapala heard that his brother had become blind, he started to roll on the floor crying. My brother is blind. What can I do? I have to do something. But Chulapala was extremely happy, because if Mahapala was happy, if his brother was happy, he was going to be happy no matter what. And so he took a relative of his, a very young relative, who was at his prime age, and ordained him and sent him to Mahapala. It took him 15 days to get there. Now think about how far they were. 15 days. And so this newly ordained monk started to help the Venerable Mahapala. Went around for alms for him, cleaned his robes, helped him go to places, helped him go to the people he needed to see. But soon, he decided to request, Venerable Mahapala, your brother Chulapala asked me to request from you to come back home, to go back to your hometown. But novice one, it'll take you days to get there, especially with me. It is easy if I stay. Venerable Sir, I'm going to come with you. I was told to bring you, and I'll stop at nothing. No amount of time will stop me. And finally, the Venerable Pala agreed, fine, let's go. And so he took a pole, and he gave the novice monk his hand, and they started making his way. Now town members, seeing this, thought, where is the Venerable Pala going? And asked. The Venerable Pala replied saying, I'm going back to Savatthi. I'm going to see the Buddha and worship the Buddha. Hearing this, the town members started to weep and lament, saying, please, Venerable Sir, stay for another week, just another week. Just stay for a couple of days, that's it. But the Venerable Sir said, I'm going to visit the Buddha. So they started to make their way. Venerable Pala and the newly ordained novice monk. You see, this newly ordained novice monk hadn't ordained to practice his path. He had ordained to help the Venerable Mahapala. That was his only aim. And so his defilements were still there. He still felt desire, aversion, delusion. And so they were making their way. And they went past a pond. And they could hear singing. Beautiful singing. And at that moment, the novice monk said, Venerable Sir, wait here. I have to get something. And left. and let go of the Venerable Pala's hand and left. And after a while, the singing, the beautiful singing, stopped. But remember, the Venerable Pala was no fool. He was wise. Even though he cannot see, he could sense. A couple of hours later, this newly ordained monk came back and said, Venerable Sir, I've got what we needed. Let's now go. The moment this novice monk touched the Venerable Chakkhupala, the moment this novice monk touched the Venerable Pala's hand, Venerable Pala shouted, let go of me. Let go of me. I do not want to travel with a monk that will break his precepts. I do not want to travel with a monk. I do not want to travel with a monk that is not virtuous. I do not want to travel with a monk that is destined to go to the woeful plains. Because he knew that this young monk had just been with that young girl. And so, having heard this young monk was so hurt, he decided, Venerable Sir, I'm very sorry. Forgive me. I was deluded. I know it's wrong, but I couldn't resist. Try to hold his hand. But again, the Venerable Pala said, no, I will not travel with you. A monk who does that I'm not going to be near a monk who does that. Who would break his precepts, who would break his vows, who would do anything like that. No, stay away. Find them. And he left and came back as a lay person. Fine, now I'm not a monk. Now can you come with me? Now I can do any of that. So now can you come with me? A person will always be bad, no matter what he wears. You're a bad person, whether you're a monk or a lay person. I do not want to travel with you. Get away from me. Please, Venerable Sir, I'll get out of your sight the moment we come back to your hometown. Please, just until then. And then you'll never have to see me. You'll never have to even hear my name. No. What you did was wrong. What you did was extremely wrong. I do not want to go with you. Venerable Sir, the forest is full of many bad things. Animals. You can trip over the roots. You're blind. How can you make it there? And we've made it halfway. And we've traveled for about a day or two. How can you go back without me? Venerable Sir, just until we get back home. No. I do not want to travel with a person like you. And so this young now man started to cry and left. And Chakkhupala with his stick tried to make his way. It was definitely going to be difficult. But he could hear something in the distance. Excuse me, Venerable Sir, where are you going? It was the sound of another man. Sir, Mister, I'm going to see the Buddha. All by yourself, all alone in this forest? And Venerable Sir, I don't think you can see either. Here, come with me. Give me your hand. Because I'm going there anyway. I'll help you. So the Venerable Pala gave his hand and started to make his way with this stranger. After a couple of minutes, you would hear drums. The Venerable Pala would hear drums. Drums in the middle of a forest? How is that possible? And so he asked, "Excuse me, sir, where are we?" "We're in Savatthi." But Savatthi was a couple of... It took much longer. Don't worry, sir. I took a shortcut. Because the man who helped him was not any ordinary man. See, having heard that Venerable Pala was all by himself, the Sakradeva's throne started to heat up. He couldn't stay like that. So instantly, he went down and helped the Venerable Pala. And it was no shortcut. He used his supernatural powers. The King Sakra used his powers to shorten the path. And so, Chulapala, the moment Chulapala saw Mahapala, Chulapala was again in tears, crying out of joy, and ran to Mahapala, worshipped him and said, "Venerable sir, let's go. Come and I'll help you." And for months and months and months, Chulapala helped his brother, Venerable Pala, in everything he needed. And after that, Mahapala went to the Buddhist monastery, to Jetavanam. See, even there, his brother didn't stop attending to him. Even when Venerable Pala was in this monastery, Chulapala would go there every single day and help him. So one day, the Venerable Pala was walking up and down, meditating. What he didn't see was, on the path he was walking, there were ants, insects, and as he walked, he trampled on them, killing them. And it was like a warfield, a battlefield. All the soldiers dead on the floor. So some of these monks saw this and thought that this was wrong, that the Venerable Pala is probably accumulating so much demerit. He's stepping on these ants and insects and they're all dead under his feet. And so they went straight to the Buddha. "Venerable sir, you know that new monk, Venerable Pala? He's stepping on animals. He's stepping on insects and ants and bugs and murdering them all. Venerable sir, tell him to stop." Dear monks, he's blind. He has no intention to kill these animals. Therefore, he is not accumulating any demerits. And anyway, he's an Arhat who is blind. And anyway, an Arhat doesn't accumulate merits or demerits. They only have actions. Not good or bad actions, just actions. So the monks, having heard this, were surprised, and some of them even insulted the Venerable Pala. And so they immediately asked for forgiveness. "Venerable sir, I'm very sorry. Forgive me for insulting you." And they again turned to the Buddha and asked, "Venerable sir, what did the Venerable Pala," or they named him at that moment, Chakkhupala, what did the Venerable Chakkhupala do to have such a result like that? That was when the Buddha retold one of the past lives of Chakkhupala. You see, back in one of his lives, he was a doctor and an optician, because these doctors, they did everything. They cured. These doctors did everything. They cured almost all known illnesses. And one woman came up to this doctor and told the doctor that her eyesight was getting weak. That, "I need my eyesight. I have 2 children. These 2 children need to be fed. They need to do this. Doctor, I would give you anything." "Actually, no. If you cure my eyesight, me and my son and my daughter will become your servants for our entire life." You see, this doctor didn't need these servants. But he was true to his words. So he said, "Okay, fine. I'll cure you." And so he gave an ointment to put into her eyes. and told her to come back the next day. And so the next day, this woman came back and said, Venerable sir, and said, Doctor, my eyesight's not, it's not getting better, but neither is getting worse. Please, can you make it better? And so he gave another ointment. Come back tomorrow. Same thing. Come back tomorrow. Same thing. Come back tomorrow. Same thing. Doctor, your medicine's not working. Can you please help me? So the doctor said, okay, fine. Gave another ointment, but this time followed this woman back. Because he knew that his medicine was 100% efficient. That on the first day, this woman should have the woman should be able to see properly now. But after a couple of days, it still hasn't, and he got suspicious. And so he followed her home and saw that she could see perfectly. That she was doing all her things perfectly. She could see clearly. And so he knew that she was lying. He knew that she wasn't true to her words. And so the next day, when this woman came, he said, oh my God. He said, oh, I've got the exact medicine for you. This is going to make your eyesight so much better. He gave an ointment. The woman applied the ointment. The doctor helped her apply the ointment. In a couple of moments, the woman started to shout, scream, Doctor, I'm blind. What? Wait, wasn't your eyesight already blind? How do you know you're blind now? Doctor, I can't see anything. I'm blind. That's what you get for lying. That's what you get for cheating. That's what you get for not being true to your word. You could see clearly. I gave you the ointment for you to see clearly, but you lied. You weren't true to your words. You didn't want to be my slave. I don't mind. I don't mind you not being my servant. I don't mind you not being your children not being my servant. I don't mind. But you are not true to your words. You are deceitful. So here's your punishment. And that's why in this life, his last life, just as he became free from all defilements, he became blind as well. And that's when the Buddha preached the Dhammapada. Mano pubbam gamadam mano setta manomaya manasache paduttena vasativa karotiva tatonam dukkhamang viti chakkam chevahatopadam. Which means that all things have the mind as foremost, their mind as their chief. They are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with an evil mind, suffering or dukkha will follow him, just like the wheel follows the hoofprint of an ox that draws a cart. And so, by the end of that sermon, all the monks who had gathered had understood the true nature of samsara. And after the Buddha had finished his discourse, they all became arhats. So tell me, how is revenge served best? Cold, right? Revenge is best served cold. Do you not see what revenge has done to Chakkhupala? All he did was make one woman blind, and at his last life as well. Which means until that life, maybe a couple of lives before, he was fully blind, completely blind from birth. But this life, he became blind as an arhat. He was very fortunate to be blind as an arhat because he has no mental suffering. But think about the lives before. He was blind. He wants to see the world, but he's blind. He wants to see color, but he's blind. He wants to see the color green, pink, purple, blue. Think about it. He goes up to a flower and says, what's this? It's a flower. What? It's a blue flower. What is blue? What does blue look like? No one can answer this question. He's extremely fortunate to be an arhat, or else his mind would beg, would surrender. So whatever you do not seek revenge. for anything anyone has done to you. Because what you give is what you get. What you give is what you get. Okay. And that is the story of Venerable Chakkhupala. And before we conclude, I would like to, first of all, thank everyone who had contributed to the pictures. So next week we have the Most Venerable Wangeesa. Very interesting story about death and how he could see where people were born by just tapping onto their skulls. So we have the Venerable Wangeesa to look forward to next. So for all the artists out there, you can draw the Venerable Wangeesa and send it on the email in the description below. And I'd like to thank everyone who had sent their contributions to us. We really appreciate it. And I want to end off finally by saying, if you make a resolve, if you have made a determination, be like the Venerable Chakkhupala, stop at nothing. Because a dream isn't something that you see while sleeping. A dream is something that does not let you sleep. So if you've made a dream, if you have a dream like that, you should stop at nothing. And also not forget, revenge should not be served. Neither cold or hot. Don't serve revenge. Because no matter what you give, you will get it in the end. And so that was the story of the Venerable Chakkhupala. May the noble Chibujan be with you all.